Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from their guests with host Christina Nichman. Wishing you a Happy New Year and a joyous, prosperous 2015. There's some exciting changes coming this 2015 for Savvy. We'll start videocasting some of our interviews. Also, stay tuned for a new book presently being worked on by my co-author and I, Karen Rowe. We'll talk about how to bridge the gap from worker bee to business owner, and the lessons we've learned on our journey to entrepreneurship. In addition, this spring we'll start live interview opportunities in Manhattan, which will later be aired on iHeartRadio, a new mix to business networking and interviews. For those interested in participating as a paid sponsor or interviewee, contact us at 718-713-2289 or savvycentralradio@gmail.com. Here's to 2015 being the best year yet for all of us. Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Today we're joined by Nicole Bedard of Baked by Bedard. Nicole has had a passion for baking as long as she can remember. Many of her childhood memories were centered around the family baking together. As an adult, Nicole used baking as a way to de-stress and bring joy into her life as well as those around her. Her passion ultimately led to her creating her new business, Baked by Bedard. To find out about Nicole's scrumptious desserts and baked goods, email bakedbybedard@gmail.com. Hey Nicole, welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
I'm fine. I'm excited to have you out for the new year on Savvy Central Radio. Girl, I love your business, your new business here. You're a baking business, and I've tried a number of your exceptional baking goods, from your pumpkin chocolate brownies to your banana chocolate bread, and my boyfriend's mom tried your yummy pecan pie. And girl, everyone I've had try your pastries and your bakery stuff has been head over heels with it. How did this all start for you? How did you get interested in baking, and how did it come to turning it into a business?
Well, thank you absolutely for having me today. And, I'm so glad that you loved everything and everybody else liked it. Baking for me, it started pretty much as a hobby. I would have a really bad day. I would come home and I just bake some cookies, which my boyfriend also loves. And, it just, every time I would bring something out to work, people would always tell me, oh, this is great, you should sell this. And it never really occurred to me until recently. I was like, you know what, maybe they've got something. So I had a particularly large request for something at work, and I made, over 100 cupcakes, over 100 cookies, and I decided to print some business cards and see where it all went.
And what happened when you handed them on? You got a million orders?
I did not get overrun with orders, thank goodness, because this is very small time right now. I'm still working out of my kitchen. But, I got a handful, and for the holidays, actually, I exploded a little bit. The week of Thanksgiving, I made a bunch of things every day that week, and everything came out so good, and I've gotten such positive reviews. It's exciting.
Yeah. How do you feel doing it? What does it do for you when you bake? Is it like your super passion?
Oh, absolutely. I was a little hesitant at first because you never want to turn something that is your dessert into a job. And it started as, maybe an experiment to see if I was going to hate it in the long term. But I can honestly say, after doing all these orders and do fit it in between work and the rest of my life for right now, it's still absolutely amazing, and I still love it. It relaxes me. I put on some music. I dance around while I do it. And I feel like sometimes the energy that I have when I bake, it's so positive that does go into the baking. It's part of it.
No, I totally taste it. I was like, if I keep buying your stuff, I'm going to turn into an elephant. No, but it's really super yummy, and I can taste the love behind it. And I get where you're coming from. Have you always had a passion for baking, or is it that you refound it, or how did it come about that you knew you had a passion for baking?
Weirdly enough, I have no idea where this came from. Recently, I've been racking my brain. I'm like, when did I first start? I don't have a oh, when I was a little kid and one of those kind of stories. I just remember, my great grandmother, she's from Pennsylvania. She ran a farm. She made everything from scratch. So whenever we would visit, there were always fresh pies, fresh cookies, fresh everything. And growing up, my aunt, she baked a lot. Every time I went to her house, there was always something there. And every year for Christmas, we would always bake massive amounts of cookies. And I mean, as kids, we had cookie trays for the mailman, the teacher, the bus driver, everybody in our lives. So I think that when I moved to New York, I was by myself. And for my first Christmas here, I was like, you know what? I'm going to bake some cookies. And it just kind of, it spiraled from there, I guess. So every year, like for the certain holidays, I would bake. And last year I made, I think, 12 kinds of cookies for Christmas. And my boyfriend thought I was absolutely insane. But it was so much fun. And it brought me back to my childhood.
Wow.
And in college, I mean, I would decorate cakes. And I mean, it was just boxed cakes with store-bought icing and everything. But it was so much fun.
Wow. You have a passion when you just do it and you just can't wait to do the next one. And every time you do it, it's exciting and passionate. For me, my dad was actually a pastry chef and a baker, and I never loved it. He used to have me help him in the pastry shop, and I was like, where can I hide?
That's how I feel at pretty much every job I've worked.
Wow.
I've been in a restaurant business. I've worked in the movie theater. I worked as a receptionist, and I get so sick of it after a month or so. And I know that I don't want to do a menial job. And I've always been drawn to, creative aspects of things. And when it comes to, like I said, baking, I derive enjoyment from other people enjoying it, which is great because I'm so a people person in that, when other people are enjoying it, it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the act of baking itself, I completely have the passion there.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone out there who's struggling and in a menial or unfulfilling job, how they might get started deciding where to go from here?
Honestly, I mean, I'm still deciding my life at the same time, but if I could do this forever, I think I would be okay. So for them, I would just say, pick a hobby, work on hobbies, because that's how mine started. Pick something on the side that you can do that makes you happy, and then find a way to incorporate that into what you do with your life's work, because then it won't be work.
Wow. That's great advice there, Nicole, because I recall early on when I started my financial consulting business, when I didn't have a passion for it, but I wanted out of a corporate life. And I'm like, what do I do next? And I just did financial consulting. And my mentor said, so do you love it? And I'm like, well, heck no. I've just been doing it a million years. And she's like, listen, you have to love it. You have to live, breathe, eat it. This is your business. You got to love it. So she's like, what do you love to do? And I'd become so disengaged with what I love to do in life that I had to rediscover it. And so anyone out there who's like on the fence going, I hate my life right now, go back to remembering the pure, simple joys of things you like to do, from maybe reading a book. Because for me, my greatest joy is connecting with people and talking to them. But I thought, how the heck would you make money from that?
Absolutely. And I mean, to be honest, this interview itself has actually made me realize how perfect baking is for me. Mm-hmm. I like little things like reading and relaxing, and I like to draw a little bit. And I was like, oh, how can I turn that into a profession? And everything I've thought of came up dry. But I also am I love making people happy. It's one of the greatest things that I've ever done. When I'm having a bad day, if I can make someone else happy, mm-hmm. or put them in a good mood, then I feel better. And I just realized that by baking and bringing these things into these people, they loved it. And they were so happy. And they were like, oh my gosh, like sometimes eating something sweet makes people's day, mm-hmm. as weird as that sounds.
No.
And and I just realized that I do that.
And I realize, Nicole, I might be wrong here, but I think when everyone is living their greatest passion and doing what they love, I think you bring joy to the world, and what you do brings fulfillment to others as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as you've gone about building your new business, what has been some of the greatest hurdles or challenges along your journey, and how have you started to overcome them?
Well, for me, it did start as a hobby, and it is turning into, it's becoming such a big thing that mm-hmm. I'm still working out of a tiny kitchen in Brooklyn. So it's balancing life and baking has been an issue, and figuring out space and all the little logistics. How am I going to market myself? What's too much? What's too little? And I started small. How I'd handle things, you take things a step at a time, and usually most things work themselves out. I decided I learned how to regiment and schedule what I make so that, my kitchen isn't overrun and it's not an absolute disaster. And I mean, like I said, for the week of Thanksgiving, I had so many orders, and I mean, I had things stacked on my kitchen table waiting to have them picked up. So it was definitely a challenge to figure out where to put things and when to make them out of my one little oven. But I timed it right. Again, scheduling and just taking it a step at a time. And in slowing down and not looking at it as a massive problem and looking at it individually, I was able to just do it one by one. And everything came out perfect. And actually, it put more attention on each item at once, thus making them come out perfect instead of haphazard and quick.
Wow. That was just a really awesome tip right there. The focusing on each step bit by bit without overwhelming, like, oh my, I have 10 orders. How am I going to do this? Without saying, okay, I've got 10 orders. Let's just start with the first one and time this out. How much time do I need for each? And then just put my full focus and attention on each one.
Definitely. And I mean, if you break it down, you set a schedule. There are some people that are very unorganized, and sometimes I'm one of them. But I also like to make lists in the order that I need things and when I have to buy things. And it's definitely breaking it down. And that does, again, it makes it more enjoyable. It means I'm not thinking of it as a business. I'm thinking of it as I'm baking this for this person, and that's awesome. I hope they enjoy it. And I put my thought into that person as I bake it. And therefore, the positive thoughts, the positive energy, I feel like that goes into it, and each person can enjoy it more.
Yeah, absolutely. You're putting the focus on the service more than, hey, this is business. It's like, this is a service I'm providing. I'm going to do the best darn cake I can, and cookies, whatever it might be. But what I'm wondering also, Nicole, I heard you mention earlier that you're running this alongside of working full time. And a lot of the people who start out on my show who have actually built their business quite thriving at the moment started out having a job, a job, as they built their home business. Has that been difficult for you as well, keeping the two going? And has there been conflicts or difficulties with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I was worried that I'd get tired of baking or something like that. But in actuality, I find that I don't like the fact that I have to go to work and then come home and bake. It doesn't really mix, but power through. You do what you have to do, and you realize that they're both equally important. One for life and continuation, because, you need a job to pay the bills. Got to pay the bills. Got to make the money to buy the flour. But the other one, it's essential to my happiness, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
So there's no advice or real answer for this other than just have to, if it's worth it, it doesn't matter.
No, I get what you mean, Nicole, because I was working for about 1.5 years from my home just on my business alone. And my business was not pulling in enough finances to self-sustain itself. And I had to go and get a consulting gig. And it was a little scary for me because I thought, oh my gosh, will I not be able to give the attention to my business and to what I love if I go and get this consulting gig? But it's turned out that now, whereas my time is, I have to be a lot more savvy with my time and figure out things. Whereas before, it's not like I didn't work, but I was not as stringent, like, okay, I've got exactly 3 hours to make this work. How am I going to plan this out? Now I know I have to be strategic with my time and focus so that I can get everything done in just 3-4 hours every night. And I think it's made my business even better and savvy even better by, having to do it this way, more effective.
Of course. And, it helps too that, you do your job and you go to work every day to make the money. But when you come home, the business, your business, my business, they are essentially relaxing, and they are our passions. And because of that, they're more enjoyment and less work.
Yeah.
You don't feel obligated to put in the time, but you want to come home and you want to, you want to do your interviews and you want to do all of this. And I want to come home and bake a cake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it's funny. I come home sometimes strip tired, and I'm like, I just want to curl up into a ball and go to sleep. And it's funny. I start interviewing, and all this massive energy comes from I don't know where. And I then get on the phone with Brian before or after the interview, and he's like, wow, I can't believe that you sounded so tired before, and now you sound like you're about to start the whole day. And it's because when you do your passion, it revs you up, I believe.
Oh, exactly. I'm the exact same way. You know, I'll come home from a 10-hour shift at the restaurant and my feet are throbbing and my back is killing me. And all I want to do is curl up in a ball on the couch. I have a cake that has to be ready for tomorrow. And I turn on some music. And by the middle of it, I'm dancing, I'm singing. And my boyfriend just laughs at me.
And as you've gone about building your business here, what has been so far your greatest lesson you've learned and that you could pass on to our listeners?
I guess I would have to say never underestimate the power of a hobby or enjoyment. Because again, this came out of nowhere for me. Something that I did just for me. And now it's become such a big thing. Last week, I got an email from someone I've never met in my life. My boyfriend happened to give him my card. I made some pies for him. And it's an amazing feeling. And I guess, yeah, like hold on to those hobbies. And if you feel like you don't like your life right now and you're unhappy in your job, like you said, definitely look for the thing that provides the enjoyment and see what you can do with that. I mean, obviously you can't market everything in the world, but if it brings you enjoyment and you think that you are able to do it, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking, even if that thing you have as a hobby, maybe it's knitting, you think, okay, how can I make a business out of knitting? That passion, if you look more deeply, can be turned into a number of different things. Maybe opening a yarn shop, or, I mean, there could be a number, working with sheep, perhaps. I mean, I don't know, but
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of times a passion in one thing could be moved over to many different areas and open up and expand into a number of different directions.
Right. And I mean, I think too that in this day and age, money is the prime motivator for a lot of people and a lot of things. And I completely understand that because these days you need money to survive. But in order to make a successful business, I think you need to overlook money.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, money is important, but I mean, I think that you have to do it for not just the money. I don't bake for the money. I just happen to be making money off of something that I love.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday it'll turn into a self-sufficient thing where I can make enough money to live. But I'm just happy baking.
No.
And if I make money off of it, that's great.
I totally get you, Nicole. And so as you've gone about, is there any role model that inspired you in starting your business or even prior?
Not really. I mean, I guess I would have to, again, say my great-grandmother and my aunt. And to be honest, my little sister is 9 years younger than me. And I've had a big part in her life, whether I'm with her or out of state. She's about to graduate from high school. And in the past couple of years, she's been trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she's decided, you know, she loves culinary. She wants to go to school to be a baker. And I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. But, you know, she talked to me and, you know, we have deep conversations like sisters do. You know, she's looking forward. She wants to pursue it. And so whenever she would come to visit, her and I would just bake. And I honestly have to say that most of this is probably her fault. She would come and we would bake, and it was something that we did to bond. And it's just, I don't know when it became my thing instead of her thing. And I mean, she still loves to bake and she's still thinking about it, but it's not her primary focus anymore. And it's kind of become mine. And I think that the combination of it taking me back to my childhood and the bonding with my sister, I really do think that she had the biggest part in this.
Wow. That is amazing, because anyone out there, including myself early on when I was trying to figure out where I could possibly take a business that would be a passion of mine, what that could possibly look like, one of the first things I did was go back to the people closest to me and said, okay, what do you see in me? What are my gifts? And they started writing them out. And whereas it didn't immediately like jump out the page saying, okay, you could be a talk show host or something like that, speaking to people, and especially the closest people to me, really got me clued into what I could possibly do as a business or as a passion in life.
Absolutely. I live with my boyfriend. We've been together for about 4 years, and he knows how unhappy I've been with my jobs and trying to figure out what I want to do. And he sees me bake all the time for these people. And it was actually his suggestion, like, why don't you get business cards and market yourself? And his confidence in me and the fact that he thought I could do this pushed me that last step. Like, my experience in my childhood and my sister definitely put the idea in my head, but he is the one that pushed me to do it. And he's the primary reason that I'm succeeding.
Yeah.
Supports it completely, and I definitely have to give him credit on this.
And that's a good point you make there, because getting started with something that is a passion that you want to turn into a business, you don't always have support by the people closest to you. Sometimes they'll be a little scared for you and say, hey, just do the normal stuff, do the job because that's safe. And maybe the people like your family or closest friends will not be the people who can help you and support you the most. But it is very necessary to have that support system. And if you can't find it with the people closest to you, look outwardly, maybe at some support groups or something that you're interested in, whether it be boating or whatever, like a boating group where you can get together with people of like mind to inspire you to push forward, to turn that hobby or that passion into a real business.
Definitely. And I think to never take a decision like this lightly. And it's something that I did the same thing you did. I polled everybody in my life. I put it out there on Facebook. I asked everybody at work. I was like, okay, guys, this is what I'm thinking. What are your opinions? A lot of people, mostly the people at work and the people that have eaten my stuff in the past were like, yeah, go for it. And some of the older people in my life and some other people, they were like, maybe you should think about it a little bit. I have a friend who, she said that she absolutely thinks that I could succeed having tried the food that I've made before, but she also knows people in the industry and she knows how hard it can be. So she was like, just be careful, make sure this is what you want to do. Can be rough. And I think that keeping the perspective, not like, oh my God, all right, I'm going to bake and I'm going to make $1 million and it's going to be awesome. I didn't walk into it like that. I walked into it as this could absolutely fail, but I love it and it's worth trying. And I think that doubters' perspectives help. But if it's something you truly love, then you can overcome even the biggest of doubters. And you're right, support helps. Get it from outside, get it from inside, but there's always somebody out there that's going to cheer you on in some way.
Yeah. And I like what you mentioned, Nicole, when you said it could fail, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because think about it in life. And I thought about this just before starting Savvy. I thought, wow, do I want to be on my deathbed, whenever that might be, thinking, what ifs? All the things I had a passion for or wanted to do in life that I didn't do because, oh, well, stuff might happen. Things might not work out. I might fail. Well, some of the greatest successes out there failed a whole bunch of times before they started to have success.
Absolutely. Thomas Edison, I think, failed 54 times before he made the light bulb. And they do say that the biggest regret that you ever have is the things that you didn't do. You have to be prepared to fail. You have to be prepared to fail at everything. And that's something that we as human beings, we wake up and we're like, okay, today could be a really bad day. But then you wake up again tomorrow and you try again. And if you're going to pursue something that you absolutely love, and I think that's the key here, you have to love it. It has to be a passion. That's kind of the point. If you're going to do it, then that risk of failure is minimal to the opportunity for success.
Yeah. And often I found for me, see, my first business I started, and again, it wasn't a passion of mine, was the financial consulting business. But it's the first thing I knew. It's the only thing I knew. And I wanted to get out of corporate and start my own business. So I went with that. But had I not taken that route and even jumped off the ledge and done that, I would have never found Savvy, which is my true passion. So it takes sometimes taking that leap and maybe failing, which I did in the first business, to find your passion and find success.
Right. And you can do something that you don't love and you can absolutely have a modicum of success. I'm sure that you were a great financial consultant, but it wasn't what you loved.
Yeah, exactly. And see, when you don't have that passion behind it, and that was what was going on with me, my mentor saw me doing all the right things. She said, you're calling, you're making cold calls, you're making sale calls and you're marketing your butt off and you're going to networking events, but you're not having results. What the heck is going on? You're not getting clients. And she couldn't figure it out. That's when she asked me the $1 million question. So do you love it? I'm like,
right.
Yeah. And then I had to, truthfully look at it and, well, no. And she's like, well, then what do you love? I don't know. So then it was another $1 million question. Let's go deeper and deeper. And it was a great process that had I not worked with her, had I not taken the step to even starting the financial consulting business, I wouldn't be doing Savvy today.
Right. And I mean, it's definitely something. I feel like people on an instinctual level can tell, like, if your heart's not in it, then they don't want to buy things from you. They don't want to do things for you. And if you love it, I think that in a way that it sells itself.
Yeah, exactly. What's really amazing is that you've heard this too, I'm sure, that people buy things not for the product, but based on the emotional connection to the product, service, or information. So people have,
Absolutely.
yeah, they have an emotional connection with you. And here's the thing that people don't get about sales. They feel all icky, like, oh, sales, yuck, I have to force people to buy my stuff. It's like, no, you offer exceptional, awesome customer service, and you don't have to force anyone to do anything. They're like, where do I send my money? Here.
Exactly. And if you come across like you care about the product, then they're gonna love it even more.
Yeah.
And that's, I love to bake, so.
What is your big vision? What do you see for your business? And by the way, your business is called your name, right?
Yes, it's Baked by Bedard.
Ah, Baked by Bedard. I love that.
I thought it was cute, and I was trying not to step on Baked by Melissa's toes by using my first name. Her cupcakes are great.
They're totally awesome. But where do you see yourself going? Like, if you had the greatest, grandest picture that you could imagine, where would you like to see your business in the next 5 years?
Oof. That's another thing that I've been trying to figure out. And in the process, I have been kind of just letting it go where it's going. And I don't have a massive vision.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said to me today, they're like, oh, you don't plan on opening a bake shop. And to be honest, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. But at the same time, I love making orders, making them out of my home. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
If in the future I have a bake shop, that would be great. I definitely know that I know where I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to make fondant cakes. I'm not a fancy isn't my thing. You go to some bakeries, like Crumbs, for example, they mass produce their cupcakes. Mm-hmm. And you go to even local bake shops sometimes, they mass produce their baked goods. I want to be personal. I want to be not necessarily. So with this stranger, for example, my boyfriend gave him my card and we emailed back and forth. And from the beginning, our interactions were personal. I wasn't formal. That's just not me.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's going to be, it's a reflection of me. And I want it to be a reflection of me. I'm not Crumbs Cupcakes. I'm not Mrs. Fields. I am like your grandma. If you want a pie baked from home like your grandma, then you come see me. Custom, that's the word.
Custom work. And you know what? It is totally like grandma's kitchen, because my grandma from Germany used to bake. I'm sorry, you're way better. But
well, thank you.
You're welcome. Please let everyone know where they can find out more about your baked goods and contact you to get some yummy baked goods.
Well, I will tell you for now, I'm still working small. I have an Instagram up. It's Baked by Bedard on Instagram. I'm working on creating a Facebook page, which will definitely help. You can email me at any time. You can also call. My phone number is 917-484-1404. Preferably we do emails because I do live a crazy life.
What is your email?
It is bakedbybedard@gmail.com. BAKEDBYBEDARD. I know it's a rough last name.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad you came out to share your passion and your wisdom this evening. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Wishing you a happy new year and a joyous, prosperous 2015. There are some exciting changes coming this 2015 for Savvy. We'll start videocasting some of our interviews. Also, stay tuned for a new book presently being worked on by my co-author and I, Karen Rowe. We'll talk about how to bridge the gap from worker bee to business owner, and the lessons we've learned on our journey to entrepreneurship. In addition, this spring we'll start live interview opportunities in Manhattan, which will later be aired on iHeartRadio, a new mix to business networking and interviews. For those interested in participating as a paid sponsor or interviewee, contact us at 718-713-2289 or savvycentralradio@gmail.com. Here's to 2015 being the best year yet for all of us.